Hey guys, King Kaiju here, back with another Kaiju review. Today's is going to be on a monster I don't think I have ever shown off on the channel, or at least a figure of a monster I've never shown off. I've talked about this monster before in a different form, but this is going to be the first version of this form that I've ever brought up on the channel. That being Larva Battra. Yeah, I finally got my hands on the Larva Battra not too long ago, and now he's in my collection along with the adult Battra, which will be in later in this video. But regardless, I thought I'd review him, give you guys a review of a figure that is very prominent on YouTube. I'm definitely not the first guy to talk about this figure. However, I thought I'd add him to my catalog because I do really like the Larva Battra just in terms of its design. And to get started with that, let's get into the detail section. Now this is old Bandai we're talking about. Not even most Ultra monsters that I review were made during the time this Battra figure was created. And you can tell that because the quality, paint, detail, everything about it is just so much better. For example, I'll throw up a couple pictures of the recent Bandai Battra that they've put out, or at least the Larva version, and it is not nearly as good as this one, at least in my opinion. For one thing, it captures the overall essence of the monster very well from the movie. They do take a couple of liberties, such as this horn up here in particular has a bunch of yellow around it whenever they were just meaning to paint this horn particularly. But I really don't mind things like that. I think it just adds to the aesthetic of the figure. If you guys haven't seen my other reviews before, I'm not too mad about 100% accuracy, or going off from 100% accuracy, I should say. And, if it just looks like a nice figure, I'm gonna like it, and I personally find that to be a nice aspect of the figure. Plus, the rest of him is not too sloppy at all, if that's really something that bothers you. The only thing that I can really give him too much shit for is the bottom of his tusks are not painted, but, I mean, when the tops are and everything else is, really, what are you gonna complain about after that? Are you gonna also complain that the bottom of him is completely bare? Nobody's gonna be looking at that. He doesn't have wings at the bottom of his fucking toes. Who gives a shit? Now, YouTube definitely knows this video is not made for kids, so let us move on. The last thing I'll talk about in the details section that I find kind of interesting, more so than a complaint, is that one of his eyes is actually painted differently than the other one. If I'm not mistaken, they're usually painted in this orangish red color right here. Meanwhile, his other eye is painted yellow, much like his yellow tusks. I have never seen that before on any other Battra figure. I don't know if that's just a defect on mine, or if this is something that was very prominent with Battra figures. Maybe this is a rarity, and there are some out there like this, but to my knowledge, it's the only one. I don't have a problem with it though. The eyes are still painted, and while yes, it is the base color, I don't find it any more enjoyable than if it were to be painted in the same red. Carrying that A+ is also the articulation, because for a giant bug caterpillar thing, this thing is articulated to shit. For one thing, his head can move. He does have a seam right there. It's hard to see, but it is there. And while it doesn't add too much, you can still get him to kind of look his head around and all that fun jazz. And it does move on its own. It's not going to work with the neck here if you really want it to, but the neck also rotates right here. So getting those in tandem, you can have this guy kind of look in a lot of directions and make him kind of look like that, like someone just said something to him that made him upset. All that fun jazz that you could do with a Battra figure. And then finally, there is a third point in his midsection right here, which is more than I would have expected. I think that it is very cool that you can get him to do a little tap dance with his front two toes right here, not including these big ones. So 3 points for this guy is actually pretty damn decent. I did not expect him to have this whenever I got him, and I'm very happy about that. Now moving him into the corner, of course we're going to get into sizing, starting off with the 1991 Godzilla. I don't think this is the one from the same movie. In fact, if it is 1991, then it definitely isn't. That's King Ghidorah. But nonetheless, still, this is a good representation of Heisei Godzilla, and they look pretty good next to each other. While I think Battra was just the littlest bit taller than he is here, he more so went up to about that point, it still doesn't look bad, and you know what? I'm not going to complain too hard over it. They look really good next to each other. Next one that I'm going to bring in is the Larva Mothra. I do have Imago Mothras, but obviously you know what figure I'm going to pull out for my third one, so I'm not even going to waste breath on that, but these guys look pretty damn good too. I don't think that this is the Heisei Mothra in particular, but they still look really good next to each other, and this sizing does work. Battra is bigger, and that's really the only thing you're going to need, so overall very good. And like I said, you all know what the last figure is. It's going to be the Imago Battra. Now this is the more recent one that Bandai has created, not the original, but still I think it looked really good next to each other. I don't think they're really too much in scale here. I do know that the Larva Battra is very big, especially for, you know, a caterpillar version, but nonetheless, I do think that this Battra, the Imago one, should be maybe just a little bit bigger in comparison, but you know what? I can't blame this figure for that. I can blame this one though. And considering that this thing is a complete brick with no articulation and this guy has 3 points, much better figure in my opinion. So bringing Battra back into the center, that's going to be the end of this review, guys. I would say that if you can find this guy for a decent price, definitely pick him up. In my opinion, a good price for him is $40, I think. I would say anything above 40 is a little bit in the range. It really just depends on how big of a Battra fan you are. I do like this guy, but I have seen him go for like 70-ish before, and that is ridiculous. Do not pay that much for him, especially considering that there is another Battra larva out now. I think that you're going to see the price of this guy decrease a little bit, and I'm sure that's why I paid as much as I did for him. So I would go for those ones. But I do appreciate you all for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next video.